So how far would you go if a discovery, an accidental moment dropped into your lap? How far would you go to plumb the depths of knowledge that wasn't there before? Would you have a look? Would you have a smell? Would you have a taste? Well, some people go all the way. Let's have a listen.
William Beaumont, born in Connecticut in 1785. He grew up on his family's farm, went to the local village schools as one did at the time. But then at 21, he left home to become a village schoolmaster in Champlain, New York. He started, he was doing the schoolmaster thing, but then in his spare time he thought, yeah, I'm going to study medicine.
Cool.
1700 style, sorry, early 1800s.
Yeah. It's not exactly the most bookish era of studying medicine.
No. And in 1810s, he became an apprentice to a doctor in Vermont.
Oh, the old apprenticeship of medical systems. Not the university, but the apprenticeship.
Nope, you just hang out with one. So while he was living with a doctor, he would perform household duties. I assume that means clean stuff.
Do you start by cleaning up after operations?
Apprentice,
then,
wax on, wax off.
Yeah, and then after a while, it's like, okay, your job is now to
polish the dining table,
clean the hair. Or,
clean the hair.
I don't know. I'm just thinking of the apprentices I think about.
Cleaning the hair. I want to be a doctor. First, you'll clean the hair. So he got a bunch of experience. He watched and occasionally assisted the doctor, as you would hope. And while he was a student with this guy, because he was a doctor,
boss doctor.
Yeah. He began a lifelong habit of keeping a journal describing daily events and the symptoms and treatments of patients.
Okay.
And it seems he was very meticulous.
Yeah, it's a good thing to do.
Some great pictures. 1812, so 2 years later, the Third Medical Society of the State of Vermont, the third.
I love it. A little bit of local colour here, but there are two competing mandolin orchestras here in Canberra.
Fuck me. The fact that there's one whole one is amazing.
But I love it. But I also love the medical societies. There was one, and there was a splitting event, and then there must have been another splitting event.
No, a bunch of outsiders went, we're going to do better than those first two. Screw 'em.
Why not join one of the two?
I don't know. So they recommended him to be a medical practitioner because they examined his knowledge on the anatomy of the human body and the theory and practice of physic and surgery. Mm-hmm. They recommended him as a, quote, judicious and safe practitioner in the different avocations of the medical profession.
Oh, that sounds good.
So
he can do it.
Stamp, you're a doctor.
Yep.
Then he went to become a surgeon's mate in the War of 1812.
On a boat?
Nope.
Oh.
Nope, on land.
Is that above surgeon's apprentice?
I don't know, because that was my favourite source. Another source said assistant.
Okay.
But a surgeon's mate. Like, what are you? I'm a surgeon's mate.
Yeah.
Are you?
That's the one that cleans the hair. Gives them a scalp massage while they get cut.
There's a lot more hair cleaning in medical training than I was aware. In his journal, he would describe long and exhausting days and nights spent treating the wounded, obviously in immense detail. So war ends, or at least he leaves it. Mm-hmm. He goes back and he does private practice in Plattsburgh, New York. 1820, he re-enlists, becomes an army surgeon, and he's sent to Fort Mackinac on Mackinac Island, which is...
I know where that is.
You know that, Michigan.
Yeah. It's right up the tip of Michigan. It's between Michigan and Canada.
Yes, it is.
Yep, it's there.
And apparently it's sometimes called Mackinac because, obviously...
Didn't know that.
No, neither did I. I'd never heard of Mackinac either until now.
It's weird how much I've looked at the map of Michigan. It's just such a glove-shaped thing. I just think...
One source did say at the top of the mitten.
Yeah, exactly. It's. I mean, there's a boot and there's a mitten. I don't know if there are any other countries shaped like clothes.
Australia's shaped like a codpiece. Don't count Tasmania. That's shaped like... Actually, that's more like the codpiece, to be honest. After the war, he'd done that, blah, blah, blah. He was the only doctor in the territory where he was off in Mackinac. And so he would treat soldiers, their families, Native Americans, trappers, settlers, basically all comers. This is 1820. In 1821, he bolted back to Plattsburgh to marry Deborah Platt of the famous Plattsburgh Platts.
I get it.
After which the town was named.
The local dignitaries. Or
yes,
they're the only people in the town.
It could be that.
Yeah, it's just Platts.
This is Plattsburgh. No, it's your house.
Yeah.
Then he went back to Mackinac. And it was great that he did because on June the 6th, 1822, a young Canadian man was shot in the stomach and brought to see him for help.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And it didn't look good for Alexis Bidagan.
They were very slow bullets back then, though.
Yeah, it took time to dig through 4 days to just get in there.
Bullets weren't a lot of power back then. They'd sort of dent your sides a little bit. I mean, I don't want to have it done to me.
Yeah, you're going to change your mind in a tick.
Okay.
Beaumont was not unfazed because he thought, look, this isn't great because gut wounds aren't great.
Yeah, of course.
But Beaumont said, screw this, I'm going to knuckle down and I'll see what I can do for him.
Welcome to The Wholesome Show, the podcast that will sample anything that comes out of the whole of science. You can.
I'm not doing it, you are.
I'm Will Grant.
I'm Roderick G. Sampler Lab.
Oh, look, I don't mind. I actually would sample quite a lot of things.
Yeah, you're not going to sample this stuff. I'm gonna stake some money on that. You won't.
All right.
I mean, now that you know you're going to win money, but
No, I there are things I can't be paid to do. So
paid to do, incentivized.
yeah, right.
So this, I should say up front, I'm not sure how famous this is. Like, this story to me is quite famous, but I move in certain circles. This one is going to be given the wholesome flavour.
Of course it will.
So Alexis, or actually it's spelt Alexis but pronounced Alexis apparently,
That's all right.
Bidagan became known for whatever reasons I don't know as Alexis Saint Martin or Saint Martin or something, because he's French Canadian.
He's a trapper.
Yep. So he was born in 1794 at Beaumont, which is a village north of Montreal in Canada. Sorry, Montreal. So he was a third generation Canadian. He had Canadian parents, but they didn't know much more about him because other than his birth certificate, and even that was a bit dodgy.
His parents didn't know any more about him.
I don't know. No one interviewed them. I don't know why.
Okay.
They should have after this. But really, people didn't know much about him until he got shot.
So he had two names. He
Had parents. It's definitely Canadian.
Okay. And then he got shot. All right, fair enough. I get that it's old-timey. People didn't keep their
It was in
records.
late 1700s.
All right.
Oh, and he was illiterate. So even if they did keep records, he couldn't go, that's wrong.
Yeah.
Or right.
Yeah.
Apparently pretty hardy. And he was described as strong, about 5 feet 5 inches, with dark hair and dark eyes. All the reports from around this time say he was about 18 when he was shot.
Okay.
But turns out he's actually probably about 30, but who gives a shit?
Well, it depends how you count. I mean,
That's
in the old
true.
days, they had a different yearing system.
Yeah.
Like there was imperial years. There
Yeah.
was sort of about 1.5 years each of the modern year.
Maybe even 2.
Yeah.
Also, he was a voyageur was his job. So, which means traveling porter, canoe man. Basically, he'd row big cargo canoes up and down the river, and then they had to carry he and his fellow voyageurs had to carry the vessel and its cargo along the banks, like if there's a waterfall or something, you'd have to haul it
Pick it
out,
up and go around.
carry it.
That's
all down.
a cool job.
Tough
That is an yes, tough.
No, yeah.
Of the types, like that's a nice way to carry cargo. I think
In a
that's-
canoe down a waterfall.
Anytime you're in it, when was the last time you were in a canoe?
Monday,
Okay. Did you feel happy in your canoe?
happy in a canoe.
So there you
didn't
go.
want to leave.
So it must have been great. If you're doing it 40, 50 or 60 hours a week
90 hours a day.
and carrying really heavy things,
Delighted.
it must be only better. See, I would be, go get a canoe now and set up a canoeing freight
Situation.
service in Australia at the
Do you want
moment.
to push pause and go grab one?
You know that there might be some hipsters doing that. You
course
could go
there are.
down the Murray River or down the Mississippi
Yeah.
or down the Thames or you pick a European river, and you could be the only canoe freight
The
service.
Molongolo for local colour.
Listener, if you have anything that needs to be carted from Canberra downriver,
Today we announce Will's new job.
Only downriver, we will consider.
I have lots of asides on that, but I shan't for now. The men went in teams. The voyageurs would work in teams.
I don't know why you're doing that.
That's how it's pronounced. It's a French accent.
That is not a French accent.
No.
It's not.
So they had songs and legends and tales of where voyages we sing songs.
Oh,
and
they sing while they
stuff.
canoe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of dangers because stuff. So in 1822, Alexis was working for the American Fur Company. So mid-1882, June the 6th to be precise, he's standing in line at the company store because he wanted to do a bit of trade. I've got these cigarettes, want to swap it for a rabbit's head and then I'm going to turn that into food or
Cool.
whatever they do.
Yeah, I get it. That's what you do.
Yeah. And someone's musket went by accident.
Oh, man. That's not fair.
No, it's not great. And he was 3 feet away from it.
Oh, ow. Oh, ow. Mm.
So the bullet went straight through his side, ripped a hole through the wall of his stomach. And it was at such close range that his shirt caught fire as he was hitting the ground.
His shirt caught fire.
I know.
Like that is an adding insult to injury thing
The
there.
gunpowder flare was close enough that it...
Oh.
So he didn't enjoy that.
I don't think a lot of
no.
people, it doesn't sound like a thing you survive very often, getting shot that closely and your shirt catches on fire.
It's a very specific fetish that
Oh,
you can
God.
enact probably twice if you're lucky.
God.
Everyone figured he was rooted, basically.
Mhm.
Well, see you later, Alexi.
Yeah.
That time, stomach
Modern
wounds,
medicine in that era, not being very modern.
more than I expected.
They
but
could put the shirt out.
They
I'm sure.
could. 4 burly men stamped up and down until the fire was out, thus saving his life. briefly.
Smokey the Bandit came in and stamped on
Smokey
him.
the Bear.
Yeah, whatever.
Smokey and the Bandit is a Burt Reynolds movie.
Oh, that's
and
what
they're
I'm
two
confused.
separate people.
That's why I'm confused.
Smokey the Bear is one anthropomorphized bear.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
See, you can learn things on this show. That's it, though. So they sent for Beaumont, the surgeon doctor chap. So he arrived just as St. Martin, or Alexi, was being put into a cot. And in Beaumont's words, St. Martin was,
Out on fire or is put out?
I think he was not burning anymore,
Okay, all
but he did have other things to think about.
yeah.
Distracted him from the fire.
Have a little lie down.
Yeah,
Sir,
look, yeah.
you are feeling shot.
What you need is rest.
Yeah.
Have a snooze.
Well, it's better than going back to work, I guess.
I don't think it is. We'll wake you up if you die. We'll let you know if you die.
All right, so the doctor's arrived.
Doctors arrived and he described St. Martin. He said he was about 18 years of age. He wasn't. Good constitution. He'd been engaged in the service of the American Fur Company as a voyageur. French. He was accidentally wounded by the discharge of a musket on the date.
Mhm.
The charge, consisting of powder and duck shot, was received in the left side of the youth at a distance of not more than a yard, literally blowing off the integuments and muscle of the size of a man's hand and fracturing the 5th rib. I found a portion of the lung as large as a turkey's egg protruding through the external wound, lacerated and burnt.
I do love, that
turkey's egg.
it is good science communication, of course, to put a complicated numerical sort of amount into something that you can viscerally understand. You're like,
Do you know I can't? I've never seen a turkey's egg.
that is my problem.
No idea.
I've not. Is a turkey's egg bigger than a chicken's egg? Smaller? It's got to be bigger.
Do you know what's weirder? I never, until I read that, I went, fuck that, that's right, turkeys lay eggs.
As opposed to giving birth to live young.
I just thought they spontaneously existed as baking size.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Like, what's a turkey look like?
I do like that the idea back then they've got a good set of eggs all the way down from quail through chicken to duck to turkey to
Tyrannosaurus.
cassowary.
But anyway, he also wrote, immediately below this, another protrusion, which, on further examination, proved to be a portion of the stomach, lacerated through all its coats and pouring out the food he had taken for his breakfast through an orifice big enough to admit the forefinger.
Do you suddenly feel hungry? It's like,
I know.
I ate my
And
breakfast.
thirsty.
Now I got to eat my breakfast again.
Yeah.
Where did my breakfast
Yeah,
go?
like, maybe I can re-eat it. Yeah.
Oh,
So Beaumont thought this guy's not going to survive for 36 hours, like at best.
Mm.
At best.
Look, I get it. Old-timey world, that seems like a horrific injury. And in fact, it seems like a
Doesn't
horrific.
seem great now.
It
Yeah.
seems like a horrific injury now. I imagine that emergency departments are like, okay, hit the big button that says bring a few people
Ick.
and maybe a priest as well,
They're not,
Or-
they're not very good with medicine.
non-denominational.
So just someone who can mumble.
someone to nurse,
Someone to mumble meaningfully
to
over
nurse them
over
through the journey
almost
to the great beyond.
the pre-corpse. After replacing the stomach and lungs as far as practicable, Beaumont continues,
Pushing them back in.
I applied the carbonating fermenting poultice and kept the surrounding parts constantly wet with a lotion of muriate of ammonia and vinegar. It's probably muriate.
Of ammonia.
Yeah, ammonia and vinegar.
I love poultices though. I'm a fan of poultices.
They sound good. They sound like they should be good.
Yeah, exactly. Like get some gross goo and sort of smear it on you.
No, take 3 poultices and call me in the morning. You'll feel better after you've...
No, poultices are
externally
a smearing
applied.
jobby. You're not taking.
No, but then you rub it on some kind of delicate material. and then Apply it to the afflicted
gauze,
area.
a gauze with poultice.
I'm thinking more muslin or
Yes,
denim.
denim.
A denim poultice.
Denim poultice.
Wanna look cool?
Not common. Not common.
If you want to look cool,
Just for hipsters.
cowboy poultice.
Cams.
Hard working man's poultice. A day later, St. Martin was struggling for his life. So pneumonia and fever set in, which isn't great.
Yeah.
So Beaumont bleeds him, then administers a cathartic.
Told him a story.
Yep.
Something
I'm
to
going to make you feel better.
release the emotions.
You think your romance is terrible.
Yeah, Romeo and Juliet. Have you heard that story? It's gonna hurt you.
So he administers the cathartic and that comes out the hole.
What is the cathartic?
Goo that would make him cathartic.
Oh, it's like an
Emetic,
internal enema, like a stomach enema, sort of.
Yeah, puke juice or something.
A purging.
Yeah, a purging. But the problem is it purged itself out the hole before it could do its job. Beaumont continues. On the 5th day,
It's doing all right. Okay.
a partial slowing took place, or sloughing, depending on how you want to pronounce it.
Oh, you mean stuff
Shit peeling away.
coming off?
Mm-hmm.
What bits?
And it left a perforation into the stomach large enough to admit the whole length of his forefinger. So 5 days later, he could still, and he tested it.
You can still admit your whole forefinger.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is a nice scientific test.
It's better than 4 fingers.
Yeah, that's true.
But still, on the 11th day, so he's still chugging along, a more extensive sloughing took place. The febrile symptoms subsided, so fever backs off.
Yeah. Okay. 11. Hey, you. That is a long way beyond 36 hours. No one can.
It really is.
No one can convert 36 hours into days, but it's
No.
definitely a lot.
It's like
shorter.
less.
Yeah.
And no one won the sweepstakes. The whole surface of the wound assumed a healthy and granulating appearance.
How would you feel if people are betting on the day you're going to die?
I think you're too busy thinking about other stuff.
I'd be pissed. Like,
Honestly, I'll be there going, why haven't we invented morphine?
unless my supportive friends would be like, no way, man, he's going to pull through. I'm betting on day 78,000 from now.
Yes.
If someone,
So you feel good.
if a friend of mine said, look, he's going to make it 2.5 days, I'd be like, dude,
Thanks, cunt.
what?
That'd be the bottom line. Seriously, there's no way that wouldn't be. I'd look them in the eye briefly as I got through my fever.
Thanks.
Thanks.
I'm going to haunt you.
Yep. I'm going to haunt you before I'm dead. You're fucked, mate. On the 11th day, a more extensive sloughing took place. Cicatrization? Scarring.
Cicatrization.
Maybe it's cicatrization. And contraction of the external wound commenced in the 5th week and left a perforation resembling in all but a sphincter, the natural anus with a slight prolapse.
What?
He's basically got a date on his side.
What? Read that again.
So after the...
This is his side. Where the
it's
stomach
his
has
side.
an extra door.
And yep.
Stomach's got an extra door.
So the perforation resembled in all but a sphincter, the natural anus.
Okay.
So it didn't actually have a sphincter muscle that, contracted and...
So, okay.
Looks like a date but without the muscle.
In all but the key bit.
It doesn't have a sphincter, but it looks like a bung.
In all but the key bit, it resembled a butt.
But you can make things that look like a butt that don't have a sphincter in them.
No. If someone says, give me a drawing of an anus, and
You didn't draw the sphincter. This is bullshit.
I would be like, come on, man. That is the bit. That is the
Okay,
bit.
if you told someone, draw me a sphincter,
If you
what do they look like?
Two cheeks and there was no bit there and it was just like a gap, I'd be
circle.
like,
So a sphincter is a circle.
yeah. With some,
This was circular, if it helps.
Sort of decorations. I feel like
It's decorations.
well, I don't know what word to call them.
I like it.
I don't know. I don't know what the medical term is for the
It's definitely
decorations
decorations.
around the butthole.
It's got embellishment, biological embellishment,
I just feel like to say something resembles an anus,
except for the sphincter.
except for the anus bit. Like I feel like
I think that's hard to do. Give me some Play-Doh. I'll do that right now. There's no sphincter. It'll look like a date though. I'm very good with Play-Doh, to be fair. So any food or drink that Alexi would consume would leak right back out through the hole.
But you could sort of dam it up, and you could push food straight back in, and
You
push
could.
it further.
You could. Beaumont decided to sustain him by means of nutritious injections per annum, not once a year, up the butt. I'm going to keep you alive by sticking food up your bum.
Okay. How far does one have to stick food? And are we talking like a chicken drumstick sort of thing
We are. I'm confident you've got to go a long way.
to get the nutrients out? Like, I mean,
My mind does boggle.
could one experiment here
Yes.
and discover how long one could survive by food per annum?
Yeah. Well, we could. When are you prepared to start?
Could one? I mean,
No, look, I'll keep
what is
the
it, like a
journal.
bag of oats or something like that?
Whole bag of oats.
Whole bag of oats.
Not a whole bag because they expand in the stomach on contact with moisture. Could that be a problem?
All right. So what are we talking here?
They don't go into detail. No source I saw went
banana?
into detail. It was more
They're not doing bananas
medical.
back in this time.
It was goo. It was
it's
like
goo.
liquidy.
Oh.
And then he did that as long as he could until he could apply compresses and adhesive straps around the gut date and keep it tight enough so food wouldn't escape.
Okay, a little gate. Yeah.
Yeah. So Beaumont goes on, after trying all the means in my power for 8 or 10 months to close the orifice, by exciting adhesive inflammation. I don't know, fucking with it so it healed better.
It's kind of, I imagine it's like
Fingering the hole.
No. It's like rubbing it so that things stick to it better.
I don't think you saw the finger movements you made.
What?
That was not rubbing. That was more circling.
Anyway, what I'm saying, like sometimes when you're fixing a puncture in your bike tire,
Yes.
you need to get a little bit of sandpaper,
The good goo.
roughen it up so it'll stick better.
Yep.
There you go.
So he roughened up the gut date.
That wasn't a proper sphincter.
No, it's a fucking loser hole. So here, excited adhesive inflammation. I gave it up as impracticable in any other way than that of incising and bringing them together by sutures. So I should sew him shut.
Can I just get an idea of the sort of physical location of patient, doctor, and other patients coming in? Because is he at home?
It's not clear.
Is he in the back of his surgery? Is he like in the middle of his? Because I'm guessing there isn't a hospital here.
No.
Is he sort of in a back room?
Probably behind the trading store, like, sitting in the storage shed with the dry goods.
Still in the same spot, and he just comes and visits him
Wouldn't
every so often.
surprise me. Or maybe he's in Beaumont's, I don't know, toilet room, house.
I'm just imagining
barn.
log cabins, log
Yes.
cabins, and a new patient comes in. I got a sore tooth. I got a whatever, and in the back is
A dude shitting through his gut.
yes.
Yeah, that didn't go into it. So he basically said, look, there's nothing else I can do. If I really want to make this work, I've got to, dumbing it down, sew it up.
Mhm.
Which was an operation to which the patient would not submit.
Really?
He'd had enough of being fiddled with, because we're talking weeks, months, 8 to 10 months. And he's like, I don't want you to do anything else. I'm done with this shit.
They didn't try like a flap of skin a while ago. Get like a turkey skin.
Wait, you're going to be happy.
I,
You're going to be happy. You're going to love it. From the month of April, 1823, 1 year after the accident, the injured parts were all sound and firmly healed by scar forms, with the exception of the hole. And then a bit later, getting into 1824, a small fold or doubling of the coats of the stomach appeared. So this, again, quoting, valvular formation adapted itself to the accidental orifice so as to completely prevent the efflux of the gastric contents. So he grew a flap. Apparently, the flap of skin prevented food from escaping, but was easily depressed by the finger, so you could
oh my God.
stick it in and pop it open. A valve, really?
Weird things happened to bodies back in the olden days.
Yeah, not anymore. That wouldn't happen now.
No.
Wouldn't happen now.
It wouldn't.
Because we don't have muskets.
No, but we would also sew it up. Like a flap grows and be like, okay, that's fine. What it intends to be is covered over. Doesn't intend to be a...
You have a hole where one should not be. We shall make it not a hole. So Alexis was obviously starting. He was improving, and he had the special benefit access gut flap bonus, which is great.
Yeah.
It's great for him. But of course, his condition meant that he couldn't work as a voyageur anymore. But even as that job, he was essentially an indentured servant with the company. So
I get it.
He didn't have a lot of options.
And there's only so much sick leave they've got. I assume they came with 12 months sick leave.
8 to 10 minutes.
It was rough times back then. No flaps.
No flaps.
No
We
flaps.
don't take flaps.
On the canoe transport business.
So he lost his job, which would have meant he needed community support, but he wasn't considered a Mackinac Island local by the authorities.
Okay.
So they said, no, you're a pauper. Why don't you fuck off back to Quebec?
Of course.
Yeah.
How does he deserve any help?
You're a bum.
Oh, that's...
But Beaumont, being the philanthropist, said, no, that's not right. He wouldn't survive the trip. I'll take him on as a chore boy.
Oh, okay.
But now that meant Alexis was completely dependent on Beaumont.
So just to confirm, he can move around the house. He can
walk around and stuff. Like he can function.
So he's not lying in bed.
Well, no, he can walk around like you and me. So there's obviously a completely selfless act of care by Beaumont on this.
I think so, yes.
Utterly selfless.
Are you saying are you implying that there's something a little bit more sinister here?
Not at all. I just want to digress for a moment and talk about digestion and the understanding of digestion in the 1800s.
Okay, what did we think?
So for a very long time, like centuries, doctors and other folk thought of food as a fuel, and it was used as internal heat, but they thought of it like coal in a train or something. It would burn, cooked in the stomach and the intestines. They thought of digestion as basically causing fermentation. Others thought, no, it putrefies food.
Well, it turns into
which
poo.
is great.
We know that.
Eventually.
And so there's got to be some sort of putrefaction here. Like putrescence is
I think
gross.
Poofitrication.
Oh, It just means gross.
You're welcome. It does say it means gross. Some thought it was because there was some kind of grinding going on in the guts.
Grinding?
Grinding. I don't know how. Neither did they. But it ground. And to keep it adversarial, of course, there is an enduring popular view called vitalism, which assumed life was caused by vital spiritual forces.
Mm.
And something as miraculous as digestion could not be explained in mechanical or chemical terms. It's just like,
oh, there's a bit of magic.
you eat it, stuff happens, you stay alive.
I like the idea. It's a theory that says we don't know. Plus, also we can't know. So don't look into it. Like it's just sort
couldn't
of
know it.
magic.
Walk away from the curiosity.
Do you really need a theory to do that? I get why people might go, you're 1600s and you go, like, whatever. I don't need to know that.
We're idiots. We know we're idiots.
I got other things to focus on.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
No.
But also actively going, no, my theory is that you can't know.
Just can't. No point looking. Magic. Here be dragons, there be magic. So debates raged up until the 19th century across Europe about whether digestion was a chemical or mechanical process, and also what the fuck are digestive juices?
You sort of can feel inside and feel if there's like a little, like a windmill, a grinding mill or something in there.
Or rocks being banged together every time you walk.
I feel like we'd find out pretty quickly if it was mechanical.
I would too, but apparently not. That's because we're educated men of the 21st century.
These people were much more likely to see the insides of each other.
It's popular.
So I feel like it's a bit of a weird guess.
Stand in line at a shop.
Like thinking, you get teeth at the top and maybe there's bottom teeth as well that grind things up.
Ugh, bottom teeth. So they didn't know what it was, and they thought maybe gastric juices were a solvent. Some thought it was just basically shitloads of saliva. And another theory that I love in digestion back then, the stomach digested each type of food sequentially.
Of course it does. It does.
Oh, carrots, they're going first, then beef.
No, but you got to do your savory and then your dessert. Like
that. But that just makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a little conveyor belt.
I didn't think about that. Oh, no, my stomach, it kind of puts them into waiting rooms. And then next, my stomach nurse walks out and goes, you next. And so they basically said, don't eat too many different kinds of foods at once because it confuses the guts.
It confuses the guts.
Yeah. So this is the backdrop. And so basically Beaumont thought, boy, do I have an opportunity here.
Yeah, okay. I can do some science.
Yep. So by the time he took Alexis on as his chore boy, indentured servant, unique patient, whatever.
Chores, but also I got to have a look.
Play with your guts.
Every so often, I just need to know.
I want to fiddle with your knot sphincter. As he put it, when he lies on the opposite side of the wound, I can look directly into the cavity of the stomach and almost see the process of digestion. And he was very excited about saying this. Here's a warm-up comment from Beaumont. I can pour water with a funnel into the... Or I can put food in with a spoon and then I can draw them out again with a siphon. That's exciting.
How far is he putting it in?
All the way into the stomach. More specifically, the usual method, as he put it in one of his writings, of extracting the gastric juice goes like this. You place the subject on the right side, depress the valve within the aperture.
I sense something coming.
Introduce a gum elastic tube about the size of a large quill. We all know the thing. Goes 5 or 6 inches in.
Yeah, okay.
And then turn him on his left side so he can sort of drag shit out and see what's going on. So that's a bit of a warm-up. Let's get explicit. Here's an experiment, one of the very, very early ones. At 11 o'clock in the morning, after the lad had been forced to fast for 17 hours, he doesn't say forced, but he was, I introduced the glass tube of a thermometer through the perforation.
Is it cooking down there?
In less than 15 minutes, it got to about 100 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 37-ish Celsius, 37, 38 in God's temperature scale. And then it would even off there. It would just stop about 37, 38.
God uses Kelvin.
Good point.
Of course he does.
Good point. I start with absolute zero, for I am absolute. I am the alpha and the omega.
How would God use anything other than that?
That's true. You're right. I do slouch corrected. So he checked the temperature. Then he goes, okay, I now introduced a gum elastic, so a natural rubber that hadn't been vulcanized, tube. Drew off 1 ounce of pure gastric liquor, is the language. Liquor. Not goo, not liquid.
Yeah, but goo's not okay.
A vial of goo. It was unmixed with any other matter because obviously he'd been fasting, except a little bit of mucus.
So
because it was just there.
So this is the first time someone's actually got access to the goo.
The goo, yeah.
I mean, I hadn't, there's no moment in my life where I thought what I want to do in science is get access to the goo. But still,
I agree.
There was a first time that someone got access to the goo.
It's also medicine, which did intrigue me for a while, why I thought, who the fuck goes into proctology?
It doesn't work like that.
Dates.
No, it doesn't work like that.
I just want to do
you
dates.
No, I don't think people. No,
Someone did. Someone went to medicine. They go, what do you think you're going to be, a GP,
no. What needs
brain
to be done?
surgeon?
What needs to be done?
Dates.
What needs to be? No, it's like if people sign up to the army saying, "I just want to kill a lot of people," usually they say, "Not for you, buddy.
Clerical.
Perhaps you should go somewhere else."
Time to be a
I
quartermaster.
feel like if someone signs up to medicine saying,
Dates.
"I really want to look at dates," I don't think they're saying anything. I think they're saying, "Okay, buddy, maybe go elsewhere."
In the interview. What do you have to say to that?
No. So I think instead it's people that feel a duty, a date-related duty.
Well, dates need attention too.
They do.
I then took a solid piece of boiled, recently salted beef, weighing 3 drachms, which is apparently a unit of weight formerly used by apothecaries, which is a great word. Fuck, I love that word. Equivalent to 60 grains, obviously, or an eighth of an ounce.
Give me something in the real money though.
1 ounce is 28 grams. Divide by 8.
It's like three and a half.
So he took the piece of boiled, recently salted beef and put it in the vial.
I always find it funny that they go straight to a fairly 18th century. They love this kind of food.
Also, they're in a sort of an outpost. So what was available?
I get it. But why don't you go with something simple like
Strawberry.
Strawberry, milk, cheese. I don't
A
know.
whole chicken.
Like a turkey's egg.
So no, that's what you stuff in the hole to keep it alive. So he drops that in the goo, corked it, and then put it in a saucepan filled with water and raised temperature to 100 Fahrenheit. That's the temperature of the stomach.
Okay.
And he kept it at that point on a nicely regulated sand bath.
Let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens as we stew it at stomach temperatures.
Okay.
After 40 minutes, the fluid had become quite opaque and cloudy. Delicious. External texture of the beef, salted, began to separate and become loose.
Okay. Yeah.
That's 40 minutes.
We're,
60 minutes.
We're cooking stomach style.
Yeah, we are.
I imagine like
It's very science.
a molecular gastronomist would be into this cooking like your stomach.
Heston Blumenthal says, you know how we're going to cook this? First, we're going to have to shoot you in the stomach.
No. We're going to make it feel like it's already in your stomach. I present to
We
you.
specialize pre-eaten food. So that was 40 minutes. After 60 minutes, chyme, which is the pulpy acidic fluid which passes from the stomach to the small intestines, consisting of gastric juices and partly digested food. So after an hour, chyme began to form.
I still don't know what chyme is.
It's what shit turns into
Okay,
after
it's
digesting
pre-shit.
for a while.
Appreciate it.
A couple of hours later, after the start,
Please tell me he ends up with like a nice turd at the end, like a.
there's no talk of turds in Beaumont's work at all.
I just.
But constipation comes
it's not
up.
my goal, but I like the idea that someone cooked up
It's your
in
goal.
a sauce. It's not my goal.
It's your goal.
It's
I want to fiddle with food in a saucepan until it turns into poo somehow magically.
an
So
apothecary.
after 2 hours, the texture seems to be entirely destroyed. He says cellularly it's destroyed, leaving the muscular fibers loose and unconnected, floating about in fine, small shreds, very tender and soft.
Okay, we've broken it down. Nice.
Yeah. So that's 2 hours. So then another 2 hours, the muscular fibers had diminished about a half. And by 7 o'clock, so yeah, I don't know, 7 hours later, 8 hours later, it's entirely broken down. There's just a couple of little fibers in the fluid. And by 9 o'clock, so 10 hours later, completely digested. The gastric juice, when he took it from the stomach, was clear and as transparent as water. So that's nice. First experiment. Another one. In fact, the next one. 11 a.m., I assume the next day, I suspended another piece of solid boiled, recently salted beef, weighing 3 drachms again, into the stomach through the aperture. How did he suspend it? Piece of silk string, like a fishing rod.
I'm fishing into
Drops
his
it in and
stomach.
dangles it.
Oh.
After an hour, he pulled it out and found it was basically as digested as it was in the vial that he'd done artificially.
I hope that our friend with the stomach hole, the chores he has to do are pretty light.
Watch TV,
Yeah.
scratch,
Something like that. Like I'm hoping he's not like,
rearrange
all right,
hats.
you are building me a shed, and then next I feel like
I don't want to make you sad, so I won't tell you anything yet. So he pulled it out after an hour and said it's pretty much the same as an hour in the vial. He put it back into the old stomach. Another hour he pulled it out, but the meat was gone. It was digested. So I was like, oh, it's faster in the stomach.
there's some extra magic.
And movement helps.
Okay.
The third one. I introduced through the perforation the following articles
Mm-hmm.
with a piece of silk string.
Shit, what I could find in the house.
some lint, a paper clip.
Yeah, sure. A quill.
What I like better is
My hat.
on one string, as he put it, appropriate distances, he connected all these things together. So it was like a long trawl line.
Oh, God.
Small enough and at the right distance so they could pass through him without being painful. Here's what he put in. A piece of high seasoned a la mode beef, obviously. A piece of raw salted fat pork. Raw.
Do they eat anything but meat?
No. Oh, no, they do. They do. We'll get that. Piece of raw salted lean beef because,
Again,
think about
two types of beef.
but lean, athletic.
It's really beef, pork, beef.
Yeah. Yeah. Also a piece of boiled salted beef.
Beef, pork, beef. 4
meats. A piece of stale bread.
Okay, all right.
There you go. You can have bread with your meal.
Finally.
Stale. And a bunch of raw sliced cabbage.
Oh, there you go.
It's got vegetables. It's good for him.
Beef, pork, beef, bread, cabbage.
Yeah.
What a friggin' diet.
That's the title of the episode. After an hour of putting all that crap in there, he pulls it out. The cabbage and bread about half digested and the meat's untouched. So pop them back in again.
He did do the cabbage first.
And the bread.
Like there was a conveyor belt. They said, no, not touching the beef yet.
The gut nurse came in and said,
dessert.
we're triaging.
Cabbage is for entree.
Yeah.
Bread is for...
We all have those for entrees. I mean, it's the thing. So he pops them back in. A couple of hours later.
You really should have put some dessert on the end though.
You should. Trifle.
Yeah, exactly. And some
tiramisu.
Trifle on your string and see how that gets digested.
Tiramisu and a chocky. So as I say, he pops it back in. A couple of hours later, the beef was partially digested, the a la mode beef, and the raw beef was a little bit munged on the surface, but not much. So he goes on to say, here's some remarks from his experiment. Pure gastric juice is fluid, clear, transparent, without odor, a little salt, and perceptibly acid. Also, the smell and taste of the fluids of the stomach were slightly rancid. Yeah, I can't believe you thought about that.
I had a little sample myself.
Beaumont licked St. Martin's empty stomach, discovering that it didn't have an acid taste until it was actively working to digest food. So I assume he didn't get his tongue in there, but no, I hope he did.
He did.
Put the finger in.
No. He put his mouth to the hole and saw how far
sucked enthusiastically.
He could get his tongue in.
Fucking horrible. Licked the juices. Because scientist.
Well, proper scientist. Scientists these days would be all like, I don't know, it's unhygienic or something.
I'm going to get
like
my postdoc to do
it. Yeah, well, yeah.
More to the point.
And postdoc's the right level for that, I think.
I know. They've got to be qualified.
Yeah, exactly.
But still panicked about their future.
Yeah.
They'll do anything. The contract you just took up is about to expire the moment you took it up.
Unless you lick this stomach.
Lick this inside of this stomach. Not the outside. Lick my stomach. That's a warm-up. Now go to this guy.
That's a warm-up. It's not a warm-up.
The outside of the stomach.
It's not necessary.
To be honest, licking the outside of a man's stomach is a warm-up to licking the inside of a man's stomach.
It is not a warm-up. It is not a warm-up.
You don't think it's a gateway drug?
No, go straight all the way.
Fuck it, just go there.
Yeah. Well, what do you there is no benefit to learning how to lick your stomach.
You don't know that.
Before licking the inside.
You don't know what I offer as a reward.
I don't care. I'm going straight to the proper science.
So, I'm not Sylvester Stallone enough for you. Yeah. I see what's going on here. So anyway, the food all goes back in the hole. By the time they pull it out again, this is a part of the problem. Alexei would complain of considerable distress, uneasiness of the stomach, and head pain.
Yeah, okay.
So it wasn't great.
I have considerable distress as you're licking the inside of my stomach.
I feel shit and I have a headache. So the food that he'd pulled out was basically in the same kind of condition, but there was more fluid, more rancid and sharp flavor. But to be fair, being a humanitarian, because Beaumont cares about people, he said, look, the boy's still complaining, so I didn't put them back in his guts.
Sure.
Good guy.
Okay.
Good guy. Ethics.
He might be hungry though.
Ethics. Fucking oath he'd be hungry. So this is a good point to talk about how much, what Beaumont thought of Alexis St. Martin.
As a person. Not as a stomach hole.
I don't think there was a lot of difference. So apparently, look, there's no question that he suffered. Alexis suffered, and Beaumont didn't really care for his physical or emotional well-being. Hard to imagine. I'm a early 1800s doctor, and you're some thug. He thought of St. Martin as a party animal, worthless except for what his stomach could do, according to some sources. In letters, he often referred to his patient as villain, drunkard, and ungrateful.
Oh, Jesus. Villain? I didn't see anything in him being a villain before.
We don't know him very well.
He was just a canoe guy.
So throughout the experiment, Alexis would have to put up with multiple 17-hour fasts, constantly poked and prodded by Beaumont. He was made to do things like carry vials of his stomach contents tucked into his armpits to keep it at body temperature. So he's got a piece of beef or cabbage in a vial of his own stomach juices. Keep it under your arms.
But sew some teeth into your armpits.
You should.
So you're pretending to chew it.
Check the grinding factor.
Yeah, grind it up first.
Yeah. Beaumont would also freely place objects of questionable sterility, including thermometers and spoons, into the hole.
Oh, God. And questionable, it's not questionable.
No, it's just not
They're
sterile.
not sterile.
No.
They're not sterile. They're in no way is he
No.
bothering about sterility.
I rinsed them off maybe because I'd been eating my porridge this morning.
I wiped it on my shirt.
So often Alexis was lightheaded, nauseous, constipated, and often had a headache.
How did he get to constipated?
I don't know. But constipated came up, which is surprising. But also, now you asked about this earlier, in the intervals of experimenting, so between them, he would do other duties like chopping wood, carrying burdens.
Jesus.
And apparently, according to Beaumont, little or no suffering and no inconvenience from his wounds.
Huh.
Which makes me think, could have gone back to being a voyeur, but he didn't.
I bet his ticket's a little bit better here.
Well, part of the reason was people would be mean to him.
Oh, if he was out in the canoe land.
He'd be called Fistulous Alexis.
Would he really?
Yes, apparently
Fistulous
so.
Alexis.
There's a burn. You're Fistulous Alexis.
I get it. People are mean.
And you're the man with the lid on his stomach. You're like, oh, you've cut me.
It's true, though.
Kids are cruel, man. Yeah, no, it's just like you're a dude with 2 feet. You're like, fuck you. Oh, no, I am. So there were a lot of to's and fro's. So over a 10-year period, these experiments, etc., and this relationship went on for a decade. So many times Beaumont would have to or chose to move around and tried, not always successfully, to get Alexis to come with him or come and meet him in his places. So he went to like Fort Niagara, he went to Burlington, Vermont, Plattsburgh, again, obviously. And it would
he's working as a doctor in these places.
He's working as a doctor, but he'd also, when he could, he'd take Alexis with him and experiment on him the whole time. The whole time he was there as his chore boy. But once he got to Plattsburgh, at least once, he was so close to Canada that Alexis said, look, I'm going to go home. And as Beaumont put it like this, from the latter place, Plattsburgh, he returned to Canada, his native place, without obtaining my consent.
Hey.
How dare you, sir?
Oh, indeed.
How fucking dare, after all I've done to you, for you.
Exactly. It would be tough having your participants run off like that.
Your willing, informed consent participants.
With your nice stomach hole. Where am I going to get another guy with a stomach hole?
I know, I've got to go and shoot a bugger. Sorry, organised for an accident. Fucking horrible. So about 2 years after he'd buggered off to Canada without consent, Beaumont managed to track the guy down with help from a fur trader friend, alleged to Beaumont, who said that your ungrateful boy was now married and poor and miserable beyond description.
Hey, there you go.
So
no one is looking into his stomach anymore.
No, it's like, what do I do? Also, I don't think money was easy to earn in his condition.
Yeah, maybe. But you might feel a sense of meaning if people are looking into your stomach.
I don't think it's unfair to guess that. Took another couple of years, but Beaumont finally convinced him to come back, and he continued with experiments. And one of the interesting ones, so in 1832, so we're talking close to a decade, Beaumont he had 6 months leave of absence from his, I think it was military job, but it might have been other. He takes Alexis to Washington, as in the town, for a series of extensive experiments.
Okay.
And one source, this is the only source I could find that talked about this, probably, they say, the oddest period the doctor and the voyeur spent together was during a stay in Washington, D.C., and they put it like this: the illiterate French Canadian and the proper doctor who spoke no French, proper as in
yeah,
they were alone together for long periods of time, including Christmas Day, kind of sitting there staring blankly at each other, apparently, which is pretty funny. Beaumont, apparently, from his records, it turns out that the relationship didn't go well. And apparently Saint-Martin was drinking heavily, angry and impatient, and these moods showed up in his digestion.
What?
That's a problem.
How did his moods show up in his digestion?
Digestively.
Little emojis.
The poo emoji, but with a smiley upside down face. But it's not completely one way. So it seems that the relationship was complicated. So even though Beaumont seems to be a bit of a dickhole,
yeah,
he felt some obligation. Alexis still felt some obligation to him. So apparently he wrote a letter in 1843 to Beaumont saying, look,
he's literate now?
Sorry. Yeah,
there you go.
I do wonder about it. Probably he dictated it to the village amazing man.
I'm just showing that I paid attention.
So the letter arrived. You're right. Maybe the letter did not be written by him, but was dictated. Explained his unwillingness to travel and reveals perhaps the patient's attempts to remind the doctor of his human condition. So Alexis says, I haven't forgotten you. There's been some sickness in my family. He had, I think, 6 children, lost 2 of them.
Really?
And I wasn't that well for the best part of a year. So he was saying, look, I remember you and, blah, blah, blah. But then he goes on, apparently he was super poor and the money helped. And that's great. But also it seems, at least according to some sources, that Alexis felt some kind of duty to the doctor because he saved his life.
Sure, I get it. Can I just
For at least 10 years.
Can I just acknowledge him doing pretty well on the 6 children front with a hole in his stomach?
Yeah, he didn't get shot in the ding-dong. He got shot in the tum-tum. He thanks the doctor, or he's at least indebted. And so in 1832, Martin, who was, Alexis, illiterate, signs a contract that said he would, quote, submit to such physiological or medical experiments as the said William shall direct or cause to be made on or in the stomach of him. The said Alexis will obey the exhibiting and showing of his said stomach.
Oh, okay.
Which is cool. I submit.
What's he getting in return?
Well, this became a bone of contention because eventually Alexis said, I want more cash, and Beaumont said, nah, fuck you. So Beaumont had all these other ideas in mind for experiments. I mean, what's left? An even longer string with more meat, I assume.
Fruit?
Cutlery.
I went into the stomach and I cut stuff up in there.
Alexis returned to Canada forever in 1834. And according to at least some sources, all but disappeared into the backwoods. He just buggered off. And he was hounded when possible by other folk who wanted to peek into his stomach, but he never agreed again. So after 10 years, he said, I'm out, I'm gone, fuck you, it's done, which I think is quite fair enough.
Fair enough.
So the legacy, basically, the Surgeon General of the US and the Secretary of War were really into this project. So they gave money to Beaumont.
Secretary of War?
Yeah.
What are we going to find that's going to help us fight a war?
I don't know.
Like some sort of, we'll know their gastric juices.
It's a good question.
And if the redcoats return, we can gastric juice
We can
them.
Digest them.
Well, what is the thing?
It's a very good question.
Surgeon General, I'm very happy with. Very happy with that.
It's mysterious. But the Surgeon General in particular, and the Secretary of War even more, helped out by giving Martin a commission as a sergeant in the army, and his only job was to submit to experiments. So it's like you're a sergeant, so you get paid as a sergeant.
Great. You can have a job. Your only job is submit to
lie around and get shit put through your gut hole. But ultimately, this all led to Beaumont's book, Experiments and Observations on the Gastric Juice and the Physiology of Digestion, published in, I don't have to tell you this, but for other people, 1833.
Yeah.
The book's in 2 parts. One talks about the experiments themselves, and the other talks about digestion as a process. And this book blew people's minds. They were like, fucking amazing.
Finally, we've discovered it's not a mechanical process.
Holy shit,
or
there
a
were no
magical
rocks
process.
in there. There's no God in there. Look, I get it. Like this is the tricky part with this, because it actually helped people learn shit.
I get it. I get the question.
No, it's tricky, the rights or wrongs of it.
Whatever.
So
it's old time people. They don't have ethics.
And they're dead now, so who cares, right? Yeah, exactly. So Beaumont did at least 200 experiments on Alexis over 10 years.
Wow. Thinking up 200 different experiments is a lot of experiments with what can I drop into the stomach.
I feel like Different's doing a lot of heavy lifting too. Like, salted pork.
So there's the gastric juices.
Pork.
There's either taking gastric juices out or lowering stuff in. And
that's my feeling.
I feel like I'm up to
200.
Massaging, like you sort of put stuff in and then you massage his tum.
And then I'm gonna work your glutes.
Yeah,
it's gonna be fine. Let's see what happens when I work the toes now.
It's gonna take me a bit to. It's one of those creativity exercises. You got to draw 100 different ants or something like that. Creativity to show how many different things you can do. Your ants doing this, ants doing that. Like so. Where's the?
I didn't know that one.
200 experiments you can do on an open stomach.
Excuse me, over 200. He recorded 51 conclusions about digestion.
Wow, okay.
No, I'm not going to read them all.
What did we learn? What's the big ones?
Things like the process of mastication, insalivation and deglutition, the act of swallowing and the processes of swallowing, basically said, look, all these acts, saliva, chewing, and swallowing, do not affect the digestion of the food. They don't matter.
What? Yes, they bloody do.
Apparently not, according to 1833 work.
Why would you have teeth?
I don't know.
Oh, maybe so you don't die. Maybe that's it.
That could matter.
I solved it.
Not dying could matter.
Yeah, you choke.
So when the food goes straight into the stomach, whether it's basically cut up into little bits or left large, it digests anyway. So basically says, look, first up, they didn't know this, the first stage of digestion is in the stomach, not before. Saliva doesn't play a role.
Does not.
Et cetera, et cetera. And also saliva does not possess the properties that gastric juices do. So they're like, okay, they didn't know
They're
that.
different.
They didn't know that. Other things, I just, cherry picked a few. Stimulating condiments are injurious to a healthy stomach, aka chili can fuck your guts.
I think we've had that before.
Yeah, but you hadn't before 1833 though. The use of ardent spirits always produces disease of the stomach if preserved in. So basically, too much strong booze, if you keep going, is bad for your guts.
Okay.
Everyone knows that. Gastric juices are capable of combining with a certain and fixed quantity of food, and when more element is presented for its action, then it will be able to dissolve. There's disturbance and or indigestion. Okay, if you pig out, you get the hurty burps.
Okay.
I ate too much. Ow.
I didn't know the hurdy burps was a thing.
Oh, yeah, they're a thing. You've had
Okay.
the hurty burps.
Maybe.
You overeat and you drink too much and you go, burp, ow, and that stung.
I hadn't named them.
That's because of St. Martin. Sorry, Saint Martin.
No, well, I hadn't, and I hadn't thought they needed a name.
But you've had them.
Probably.
Everyone knows what a hurty burp is now. Gastric juice is never found free in the gastric cavity. It's always excited to discharge by the introduction of food or other irritants. So it's not, your stomach isn't a bubbling cauldron of goo waiting for stuff to be
You make
dissolved.
it on command.
It's like, oh, food's here. Blip.
Yeah, okay.
Let's shoot some shit out. This action is facilitated by the warmth and motions of the stomach, so gentle activity helps. We're like, yeah, duh, but we didn't know that before that. The action of the stomach and its fluids are the same on all kinds of diet. So that means all wellness warrior, influencer, nutrition advice people are entirely wrong in every way. Nothing else matters. I don't know if that's true. These are Beaumont's paraphrased words.
Sure.
His most notable conclusions were about gastric juice, which at the time was fucking cutting edge. Like people were like, what the fuck is gastric juice? What does it do? Blah, blah, blah. Which they called a powerful and wondrous substance. He examined it through as many senses as possible. When you take it directly out of the stomach, unmixed with other fluid, it's clear, transparent, inodorous, a little salty, and perceptibly acid, as I said.
Mm-hmm.
When you apply it to the tongue, it's, so basically describing the juices was a big deal. It was a big deal. So in the end, Beaumont basically, he proved once and for all digestion in the stomach was chemical.
There you go.
Not physical,
not mechanical, not
magical.
Yeah.
Yeah, he proved all that.
All right.
And this made him a big deal. He was considered, at least by many, as the father of American physiology, which is pretty cool. And they're also amazed that he had fuck all medical training and no scientific training. So he did this with his own sort of instinct.
He got the membership. He's fine.
But that's not science. That's like, can you, I don't know, put leeches on a ding dong and off you go.
That's the level of science back in those days.
But retrospectively, people have gone, that's pretty impressive.
Okay.
So after Alexis left, etc., he lived in St. Louis. He was comfortable. He's happily married. He had 3 children. He loved them. His book didn't make a lot of money, but it made him famous. People went, holy fuck, this guy's astounding. And he died in 1853 because he fell visiting a patient on an icy step and hit his head, and took about a month for him to toddle off.
Did they experiment on him while he was dying?
No, because he was the guy and he was gone. So, it couldn't happen. But it turns out that Saint Martin outlived the doctor by 27 years. Like he lived way longer. When he died in 1880, his family went, okay, we're going to leave his body out to decompose in the sun before they bury him so that people wouldn't dig him up and play with his body.
Thanks, family.
I know. They buried him in an unmarked grave, 8 feet deep, rocks on the casket, so people couldn't get to him.
Rocks don't stop things. 8 feet deep.
It's deeper than 6.
I get the leaving him out in the sun.
They get to 6 feet, like the grave robbers who want it, and they go, oh, he's not here.
It's a kind of cool recipe for being buried that you're like, all right, family, you got to leave me in the sun
Rot
until
me,
I'm
bury me a bit deeper,
Yeah.
put rocks on me. And also, this is a nice little addendum. In 1962, Canadian Physiological Society said, look, it's time to go and mark the grave. It was unmarked until that point.
Okay.
Because they didn't want him to get nicked. And so they did a bunch of investigating to find him and find out about him.
And dig him up and have a look in his stomach.
Just in case. Out of respect.
Yeah.
Out of respect.
That stomach hasn't been looked at in 200 years.
Out of respect.
What are we doing
is it
here?
still working? Does he still have a gut date? It turns out from their investigations, he was actually about 28 when this is all going on, not 18.
How did they find that from digging him up?
No, they did other stuff first.
I get it.
They had to find him. Every other report, mostly from Beaumont, basically said, he's 18. Fuck, I don't care. Which is great. So he never bothered to check his age. He checked his stomach contents. He made him do things, but he never bothered to check that out. So basically, old school ethics really go well here. Main sources, so there are a bunch, but sciencehistory.org, distillations probing the mysteries of human digestion.
Thanks. That's great.
Smithsonian Mag did a great story on him as well. And my fave was from the Australian and New Zealand Journal of Surgeons, A Debt to Alexis, the Beaumont St. Martin's story, and it goes on. All the links are there. There are others as well, but those are the main. And the podcast I mentioned, or I think I did, Radiolab, Sawbones, and The Dollop also covered this one, but I didn't listen first because I wanted to make this purely wholesome.
Well, there you go.
It's a popular story. What's her name? The woman who does awesome stories about traveling to Mars and other such things. Mary Roach featured him in a book too, on a book on digestion stuff called Gulp. But I haven't read that either because I'm busy.